I'm Bobbie Wrinkle. I want to welcome you to Evening Upstairs at your library. How many of y'all remember the haunted house, the merry-go-round, and of course the train? How about the wild mouse and the water slides? All the company picnics and school field trips and birthday parties, and being a kid and begging your parents to take you to Funland. Tonight we'll spend an evening with the children of Carlton Watkins, owner of Noble Park Funland, Gary Watkins, who managed the park, and his sister Gayla, who ran the waterworks slide, as they reminisce and share stories of Funland. Let's welcome Gary and Gayla, our guests.
Thank you guys so much for coming out on a cold January night. I can't believe everybody's here. This is crazy. We used to make you all come out in the hot, you know, and here we are in the cold. Come on over here, Gayla, if you want to.
Okay.
Here you go. This is my sister Gayla. We're twins. We are the people that are representing the Watkins family. Annette lives in St. Louis. She's a piano professor at Washington University, and so she's not able to be here tonight. And Connie, our oldest sister, is in St. Louis. She's retired and works part-time up there and lives next to her son. And so we're it. We're what's left of the Watkins family. And so I'm 5 minutes older than she is, and she's quite proud of it, you know. Thank you guys. Thanks so much.
I'll have my turn here in a minute.
Her job is to chime in, so you know she'll jump in whenever she wants to. But just thanks so much for coming out. You know, it's just amazing. You know, it's amazing to see the number of people who will get out on a cold January night just to think and reminisce about Noble Park and the good times you had and all that. And so I wanted to bring greetings to you from the family. I also wanted to honor our spouses here. Leslie, this is my wife, Leslie. Leslie, stand up real quick. Johnny Roderick, stand up, stand up, stand up. Leslie, stand up, stand up. Johnny worked as an electrician for Dad in the manufacturing plant, and we'll talk more about that later. So he wired most of the rods that Dad manufactured, and my wife put up with me working 1 million hours a week during the summertime, and being home all the time in the wintertime, so she had to get used to me again. But we're glad they're here. And we have several employees that worked out at Noble Park, worked with us when you were out there. If you're an employee, we're an employee of Noble Park, would you please stand up, please? John Scott, stand up. Mr. Garrett, Turkey. Anybody else? And so glad you guys are still alive.
Never
we're
thought
proud just
we
to be anywhere, you know.
Never thought we'd end up at the library, did you? I know, but we're going to have a lot of fun looking at all these memories tonight. We got a lot of pictures that you all have no idea what it was like before, from the beginning, the year we were born. So let's go ahead. Get started.
Get with it, huh? Mm-hmm. Well, anyway, I just want to make sure I don't leave anybody out. But actually, our family started out in Melbourne. I think either my great-grandfather or great-great-grandfather came out from underneath a cabbage leaf out down in a dirt farmer in Melbourne somewhere. And my Melbourne representation is here. My cousin's here tonight, and the Goods. And my grandfather, Grover Cleveland Watkins, came to Paducah, and he was a mechanic, and he owned the 12th Street Garage. And I don't know if any of you all remember the 12th Street Garage, but he had the biggest wrecker in town. And I think we have a slide here. This was, for those of you history buffs, this was his wrecker. He had the biggest wrecker in town. He could actually pull a bus out of the ditch, you know, with this wrecker. But my favorite thing about this picture is the phone number. 49. Who has a phone number of 49? It's crazy, you know. But that was his pride and joy, and he worked on Model Ts and As and, you know, all that sort of thing. And so that's the environment my dad grew up in. And then after he had the 12th Street Garage for a while, and then they got into the heavy hauling business because of this. They would go between here and Murray and pull buses out of the, you know, back then you only had 2-lane roads with a very narrow shoulder. And so they would go out, and they were forever pulling buses out of ditches and things like that. So they got into heavy hauling business with cranes and lowboys and trucking and that sort of thing. And so they had this. This was actually in 1956, but they were still running that business. My grandfather passed away in 51, and so Daddy continued business on. He actually bought the park in 1953 when we were born. So if you ask us what the park was like when he bought it, I don't know. We were just there, So we were born in January, and he probably bought the park sometime in the summertime, But that was the heavy hauling business they had, and so we were the twins. We were the youngest two, and we were the twins, and so we all we've ever known was the park. That's all we ever knew. So people ask what it was like to work out there. Well, that's all we knew, And so you work all the time when it's hot and sweaty, and in the summertime, then you're off when it's cold and raining. But that was the original Noble Park Funland logo, and the tagline was "Where it's all in fun." And so we just want to have a blast tonight. We're being pretty serious for us, but we don't. We're not having fun. We need to go home. But anyway, I think there's been some interest in the history of the park. From what we know, and I've checked with all my siblings, there was a guy by the name of Mr. Gurley that owned 5 amusement rides when Dad first went out to the park. There was a merry-go-round and a Ferris wheel and 3 kiddie rides. And so he took all of us kids out there. There was 4 of us. He took all of us out there, and he was sitting there, and he had us on the rides, and he started calculating how much money he was making. Being the ever businessman, he figured out how much money he was making and approximately what his costs were, and so he decided that'd be a great business to get into, So he wound up buying the park, and then he bought the train and started adding rides to it as it was, but that was the original logo. This is when he first bought the train, and that's actually their crane on their truck, the Grover C. Watkins train, and they're setting it on the tracks for the first time. And that was probably that same year or so. It's around 53 or so. Can everybody see okay? There's another view of that. I love the old trucks, and they got the gasoline-powered engine on top running the crane. And if you'll notice the difference in the merry-go-round, that's the same merry-go-round that was there all 35 years, but it doesn't look the same. You'll see some differences here in a minute. This is after this guy's name was Mr. Marvin. Gayla and I can't decide if that was his first name or last name, but we called him Mr. Marvin. So I don't.
That's all we knew.
That's all we knew. But he ran the train. He was there for a long time. And I want to take a laser pointer and show you just for a minute, Gayla. Let me step. Okay. In the beginning, it can show you what rides were originally there. Here's the Ferris wheel, and it was a number 5. It had 12 seats on it. We later on bought a 16, which had actually 16 seats on it, moved it towards the back of the park, which is what you may remember. But there were the flying scooters that were right here, and I don't know if any of y'all are old enough to remember the flying scooters, but they were the most fun on the planet. It kind of had 2 butterfly wings on it, and the first one you could pivot like this, so you literally flew it in and out on cables. And if you were really good, you could go up this way and almost go backwards, and it would snap and pop the cables and snatch you back around. All right? It was awesome. But the operators were not supposed to let you pop the cables, but we were the boss's kid. We were going to pop the cables, But it would snatch you back around, and you go do it again, so you're flying in and out like this. And it was a great ride. It was inexpensive. I see the old car here in the 50s car. There is, let me see if I can get over here. There is a kiddie ride here. I'm not sure what it is, but there's the merry-go-round. And, of course, you'll see in a minute we had a skating rink back here, but that just gives you a clue of what it looked like, when we first began. These are some of the crew that Dad had that came over from the heavy hauling business. This is Ivan Levitt right here. This is Lola's grandfather. Is that right? And he was the manager of the park in the early days. And this is Garvis Hathcock, or Red Hathcock as we called him. And they moved over from the trucking days. And this is a painter he had named John. And that was just them kind of getting the park laid out and putting things in. And Ivan Levitt was a legend. I mean, just the whole time he was alive there. He worked till he passed away, and I don't know how many years that was, but it was a very long time.
He was our grandfather.
Yeah, he was actually our grandfather. He took care of us out the park, and we had to do what he said. And there's some things y'all may not be aware of, but he was in charge. Although Mom worked in the ticket booth, and she was in charge of taking the cash in. You know how women are, and she liked getting the cash. They could worry about the park. But if he was down there late at night, he thought we were open a little too long. He would, about the time he thought it was time to go home, he'd start crowing like a rooster. And that was supposed to subtly send a message to her that it was time to go home. Of course, my mother's rather stubborn. She'd go home when she felt like it, So, but he thought he'd put his 2 cents in. But you'll see him in several pictures, and he was an icon around the park for many, many years, don't you think?
He died in 71.
In 71. He actually went down to Ferguson's automotive parts store to get some parts for the train or something at the park, and passed away when they went back to get the parts. They came back, and he passed away out in front of the counter. So he was a great part of the history of the park. Now this is the first merry-go-round, the original merry-go-round before it was redone, and you'll notice it has canvas sides on it. It has a canvas top, as well. This is called gingerbread. It had this particular style of gingerbread on it, and we'll reference that in just a minute. Now here's the train, the original track layout, which the merry-go-round was in the same place, so it actually came up kind of in the center of the merry-go-round and went around it because there was a snow cone stand and a concession stand. There were two buildings to the left of that, and the Staleys own that. Do you want to talk about, do you remember the Staleys?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They had they were two long buildings. I don't know if any of y'all remember that. And one of them had cotton candy and snow cones in it, and the other had hamburgers, popcorn, and whatever. And then when they left, we built the round building that all of us grew up in and worked in. And
well, I was laughing at Gayla. We were talking earlier because the train came right beside the snow cone building and the cotton candy booth in particular. And so when it was slow, they would hurl snow cone ice out at the... I mean, you had to have some fun. It was... They would hurl, and the train operators would hurl things back at the cotton candy lady, But
you were there so long, you had to have fun. You were there for 10
well, I mean,
12 hours a day.
You had to, might as well throw it, if it was there. But you'll see here, one of the things you couldn't see earlier is right here there's a rocket ride. It was kind of had little rocket cars on it, and they just kind of spread out when it spun around. It's for kids, So it's just kind of interesting to pay attention to the backgrounds in these things. And this Ferris wheel right here, I don't remember what year we sold it and got the larger Ferris wheel, but that's the one on July the 4th. We had a guy decide he was going to quit on July the 4th. Now, July the 4th was our Christmas. If you didn't get July the 4th, you might as well hang it up and go home for the year because there was 8 million people out there. We were, it's always muggy on July the 4th, you know what I mean? And we got cotton candy dripping off people's hands, and it's so muggy you hand the cotton candy out the window and it starts to droop already. But it was hot, and there were people lined up on the Ferris wheel, and he got it loaded wrong. And I don't know how many people. Rides like that, they have to be balanced. They have to have so much weight on one side of the wheel and so much weight on the other side of the wheel. And if it's not balanced, it kind of goes up and then it comes back down. And so you got to take one person off. Excuse me, I need to move you to the other side, pull it around, but then on the other side get it balanced. Well, he got it out of balance, and it wouldn't go anywhere. And he came over, and I happened to be standing next to Dad. And Dad was not the kind of guy you tell him no. It just wasn't going to happen, And he came to me and said, "That's it, I quit. I'm not doing this anymore." And my dad looked at him and says, "I'll tell you one thing, you're not quitting on me today. You might quit on me, but you're not quitting on me today. Get back over on your ride." Guy turned around and went back to his ride, Stayed there the rest of the time, never did quit. You couldn't even quit my dad. That was the bad part.
He wouldn't let you quit.
No, you had to ask him if you could quit. That's pretty much how it went, Can I quit? Yeah, fine, go ahead. All right. But anyway, Now I want you to notice on this merry-go-round right here, these horses are going the wrong way. I don't know if you remember that. You'll see it a little bit. But another little piece of trivia for you history buffs, all amusement rides go counterclockwise. I don't know why, they just do. But they all go counterclockwise. Well, this one wasn't originally set up to go clockwise. So I think it's in this one, you'll notice the horses have been turned the other way. Fortunately, the way they were suspended, it was a way which you could turn them. But he corrected that and reversed the way the electrical motor turned the ride and put it as it should have been. But it's just kind of crazy that somebody actually put out a merry-go-round that went the wrong direction,
You'll think about that next time you get on a merry-go-round.
You're like, is that thing going right? Yeah, that's good. Okay, we're good. I don't know why. It's just they all go counterclockwise. There's something about it. How many of you remember birthday parties at Noble Park Funland? How many of you are old enough to remember the fire truck?
Okay, how many fire trucks?
And that was, can you imagine these days lining up about 20? They must have taken 2 trips with that amount of kids. But if you look in the truck here, these were just bench seats, metal bench seats that went down each side.
No seat belts.
They would drive to your house, pick up a load of kids, bring them back to the park, have the park. Now, there's an open cab on it. There's no, no seat belt, no nothing out there. You load 20 or 30 kids up in the back of that thing, haul them to the park, ride the rides for an hour, have, what was it?
Cupcakes, ice cream, and Coke.
And you'll see in a minute they had to wear these dorky little hats. You get these special little hats you get to wear, back in the 50s. Remember how cool those were? Little pillbox deals, You can tell this guy's happy right there. He's happy about the whole thing. Yeah, I'm sitting here in this dorky little hat. Yay-hoo, I'm at a birthday party. Obviously, they had not served the ice cream yet. But yeah, just that's what it was all about, And I had forgotten that there was actually neon tubing up here because it had gone long ago. It kind of had faded away, but those were different times. You could just throw them in the back of an old fire truck and haul them around town, It happened a lot while we were
The birthday party person got to wear the fire chief hat.
Oh, that's right.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, it didn't change much, and the whole time.
And got to sit up front.
Oh, they did get to sit up front.
They got to sit up front with the driver. Yeah.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah,
big
that
stuff.
was big stuff.
Marketing.
Yeah.
Right. And it continued until we were probably in high school, because Gayla and I stood up in the back of Dad's truck and drove all over town at 60 miles an hour the whole time we were growing up. Y'all get in the back, and he'd take off. We'd stand up. He literally went down Cruz Avenue over by the park at 60 miles an hour.
Yeah.
That's just how he was, We didn't think anything about it, So we had a lot of fun. Now, I don't know how, probably none of y'all, I don't even barely remember the Little Dipper. But again, you got to have those funky little hats to get on it. They look really cheesy. But it was a big thing. The Little Dipper was a big thing to little guys, So it was there for a little while, not too terribly long, but it was. Huh?
That's when Robinson's Forest is pretty cold.
Yep,
Yeah,
they were in that area. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And we don't have any pictures, unfortunately. We don't have any pictures. The Robinsons had the ponies out there. How many of you remember riding the horses? Those poor little sad, tired ponies going around in a circle with all depressed. Oh, get to do it again? Great. Yeah, that's awesome. Come on, somebody else get on. I'm just going to go around in a circle. They always look kind of tired, kind of like, oh, man. Guess what we're going to do tomorrow, guys? Same thing. We're just going to walk around in a circle. Then they lead them out and lead them back in. But the Robinsons, it was James and Gail Robinson is still out at West Kentucky Tech. She works out there. I can't remember what she does, but she works out there still. But her dad had him. And then James Sanderson, he worked for that, and he bought them after that. So there were two different owners of the pony ride out the park. And they were there for a long time, Then somewhere along in the way, we woke up on a Christmas morning. And Dad said, I have a surprise for you. He takes me downstairs, and there's this Formula One go-kart in the basement. It's like a go-kart with a Formula One kind of a fuselage on it. Now, we have a circular basement at the time in the basement, and I'm blasting around there with this go-kart in the basement of our house, and the carbon monoxide's going up through the house, and Mom's freaking out, and come to find out they were for this turnpike ride that Dad built. But he thought, hey, I've got the cars, I'll act like it's their Christmas present, and it'll all be good. But we eventually later on came up with an electric turnpike ride, but the first one was actually go-karts. And you'll see them here, they're laying the area for the track, they're putting out hot patch for the asphalt, and so it was that way until finally they got to be too much trouble, and there was too much maintenance and upkeep, and so they finally went for the electric version. But it just amazed me what the standard working tire was. Let's get a bunch of shovels and build a track. This is actually. How many of you remember the Voodoo Trail? How many of you got stuck in there? How many had somebody come pull you out? This is actually the second version of what y'all would call the spook house. In the industry, they're referred to as dark rides because there's dark rides and fun houses. Dark rides are dark, fun houses are like mirrored houses and all that sort of thing. So this is a dark ride, which y'all would call a spook house. And this is the second version. The first version, I think it burned, didn't it, Gayla? Mm-hmm. We had the skating rink, which you saw in the background with the fire truck. I don't know if I talked about that. We were told to go to the skating rink when the fire truck was in there. We lived in the skating rink from 2 to 8, so we learned how to skate really early because it was like a pen that they could put us in that we wouldn't go anywhere. We had to do whatever Mr. Flood told us.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah, Mr. Flood was in charge of the skating rink,
and
we had to stay in the skating rink forever.
And I'm going to tell it all. It's a secret. I got my first kiss on the lips by Mr. Flood's daughter. She's still alive in this town. She was 16, I was 8, and I was very happy. She was a player, and I didn't care. It's out on tape now. Okay. Hi, Betty. How's it going? But this is the first version was a ride-through, and it was made by the pretzel company, and the side of the cars had looked like a pretzel shape on it, and it burned. And so they put in a walkthrough, and walkthroughs are a lot better because you can do more mean things to people in a walkthrough. Okay, because the halls are narrow, you have tilted rooms and psychedelic stuff going on in there, and little turnstiles when you go around the corner. That when you step on it, zip, you go around the corner, you know. So you could have some fun with them, but they would get stuck in there. You'd have to go get them out. Some people use the bathroom in there. We had another name for it, but it wasn't Voodoo Trail. But anyway. Just think about it. It'll come to you.
It rhymes with voodoo.
You've already gone there, haven't you? Yes, you've already. There's a couple of neat stories, like, and we told this on the video that JT did a long time ago. Next to the last hallway, there was a set of 2x4s on the side, and they had garden hoses sticking out of them. So it felt like somebody was trying to grab your legs, but they were just garden hoses that were hanging out. So girls would freak out, and they'd run and hit the wall, and run and hit a wall, and run and hit a wall, and her boyfriend at the time, who was young and skinny and rather nimble, decided to get in that section and put his feet on one wall and his back on the other wall and shinny all the way up to the top and let his hand hang down because he thought the girl was good looking. All right, so this is how he was going to impress her. All right, so he let her hand hang down. It's a wonder she didn't grab his hand and yank it, you know. But he actually did it. She freaked out and came running out, and we all died laughing, you know. But you had to do something for fun. Our other favorite thing is when if you ever mistakenly came out the park in a dress. We were watching you. Yeah. I won't say they'd come out in a dress. And so when you came out of the Voodoo Trail, remember that name, Voodoo, there was a set of barrels right here, air-actuated barrels on the left-hand side, right over. Air-actuated barrels right here. When you come out into the light, you would step on the first plate, and the barrels would start to fall on you, and a chain would catch them. They would run, and then an air hose blew your dress up, and then they would run and hit the gate. It was 1-inch square tubing gate, and they'd go like smack right into the gate. So we were always kind of watching, you know. And do you want to tell the one about the orbit, or do you want me to tell it?
About the what?
Orbit.
Okay, be nice.
I will. When people came out in a dress, and they went to the orbit. Do y'all remember the orbit? Who remembers the orbit? What happened in the orbit? You went around, you stuck to the wall, floor dropped out. Well, you have to understand, Dad made the orbit. He made it from the ground up. They were selling them, but he wasn't going to pay that much money, so he made his own, all right? And so it wasn't exactly true. Like when you went around, it kind of had a little bounce to it like this, you know, so you're like stuck against the wall like this. Well, if you came out there in a dress, the thing was timed at 2.5 minutes, and so the floor would drop out. Well, the girls in the dresses would start to go down as it shook like this. Now, we know, they don't know, but we know that about the time the dress gets up to the middle of your thighs, the floor is going to come up. But they don't know that. So somebody get on the orbit dress going, hey, somebody's on the orbit dress. We'd all flock over there. Because they're on the orbit going around like this, and they're going down, and their eyes are getting bigger, and they're trying to figure out how to get the dress down, and it's not working, and we're going like, and about the time it gets thigh high, floor would come up, and we're like, yes, that was awesome. You know? So this is what amusement park people do for fun, you know. You become overt people watchers. You have nothing. Y'all want to know how long the rides last? Anybody know? Connie, do you remember?
3 minutes.
2.5 minutes. Boats, 2.5 minutes. Ring the bell, kid. Ring the bell. There's 10 bells on 5 boats. So we put the deaf operators on the boats. Because they're going to be deaf if they're not.
That's right.
Right? And you go over and talk to them and go, what? Excuse me, your thing's messed up. Oh, you couldn't hear anything. So we had, ring the bell, kid. Ring the bell. You know. But after the Voodoo Trail, which was awesome, it just got to be too problematic, so we put another ride-through in. And that's cool, you know, because it's more controllable. Every now and then you'd send a car in with a couple of girls in it. You'd come out, there was nobody in the car. They had freaked out and gotten out somewhere in the middle of the ride, right? You remember? And so we'd have to turn on the lights and run and get them because there were these metal rods that were triggers for the cars to turn the tricks, as we call them, on. A guy would pop up, or the horn would come on, or the strobe light would hit you in the face. Well, they had these big steel rods, you know, that would trigger the things, and they would take your shins out if you didn't know where they were at. So we'd have to run in real quick, you know, but we come ready to run. Anything you want to say? I'm doing all the jabbering.
You're doing good.
Okay, let me know if I mess up. All right. So then went to a ride through in later on. This is Mr. Levitt again. He was the manager of the park. He was the man. Love the hairdos. They're awesome. And there he is again. This is the wild mouse here. So it used to come right up beside, real close to the park here. That's before we lengthened the track. And who remembers the wild mouse? You know, I'd forgotten until we saw this picture, but you actually had to bend over to get in the mouse hole. You had to be so tall to ride. There was a yardstick out there somewhere, but you had to bend over to get in, and you had to bend over to get out. But that's now this is when they had the Eli 16 wheel, had 16 seats on it. It was 32 feet to the middle axle. And Gary Cunningham, sitting right over there on the end, my wife's cousin, who introduced me to my wife 37 years ago, we had him grease that axle every now and then. And that's all I'm going to say. We played some mean jokes on people. Mr. Watkins said you got to get over and grease that axle. But anyway, so it moved to the back by the lake. And I hear rumors, Jay Height, who's not here, who is the media technical director here. He's the reason I'm here. Jay worked for us for 8 or 9 years. And I know that he said, hey, would you come down and do a talk on the park? I said, sure, buddy. I'll come down and help out. And he's not even here. He had shoulder surgery yesterday, but he wanted to be here. But one of the urban legends about this thing was that we hear that people think that a car fell off the mouse and went into the lake. Well, it wasn't close enough to the lake, first of all, but no, we never lost one in the lake. You know, not that a couple of us didn't go in the lake a time or two, but not off the wild mouse. And the reason why the ride was popular was because if you look at the mechanism here, the truck as we call it, there were 10 wheels that were 5 wheels on top and 5 wheels on the bottom. And you literally have to, on any roller coaster, you have to take the track apart, thread the car on, put the track back together. So they actually have a better insurance rating than a lot of other rides because they're not going to come off. Now they'll stop, and you'll hear those happen from time to time, but they're not going to fall off. You know, the whole track would have to come apart. But the reason why it was scary is because you can see out to here, and you're going to a curve, and you think you've missed the curve, and then it would turn. And so that was the appeal of the ride. But I think that's why a lot of people remember it. How you doing?
Yeah, and
okay.
You're doing good.
All right. Let me see. Oh, I don't know. Somehow.
There you go.
There we go. Who remembers this? My wife doesn't remember it.
You don't
remember it? So this isn't a lie. This isn't Photoshop. This is real, right?
What year was that?
I don't know. I can't remember.
That was when we were about 8 or 9, somewhere around there.
Well, it was when Davenport was there. So
Yeah.
We all have nicknames. I'll have to tell you this. Her name is Hollywood. My name is Jerry Bub. My next oldest sister was Inez because her name was Annette. And my oldest sister was Blondie because we had a guy there that couldn't remember our names. So he gave us nicknames, and we still call each other by those nicknames today. But his... That's a long story. But he's one of his uncle, I think, ran the boat, and he used to wash his hair in the lake water. Yeah, every day.
Daddy would hand their check with a bar of soap.
Every week, Dad would hand him their check and a bar of soap,
Yeah.
check and a bar of soap, check and a bar of soap.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
They were great workers, though.
Yeah, they were great people. They just,
Yeah.
need to clean up a little bit. So this is us, me with hair. This is Gayla more hair. So this is 1979. So this is what we would have looked like back in the day when we were young and tender and skinny and wrinkle-free. In 1979. So that's how you would have known us. All the management had to wear red and white striped shirts, including the game. If you were a ride operator, you wore a hat. But if you're management or games, you wore a red and white striped shirt. So these two, this is Annette. This one's Annette. This is the one that lives in St. Louis, and she's the one that lives in Cincinnati. And there's the ticket booth. front and the back. And that actually, it sold at auction. And for several years after that, I can't remember the route number up in Illinois, but when you go to Camp Ondesant, the Catholic youth camp up in Illinois, there was a house on the right about halfway there, and this sat out in the backyard for years and years and years. So whoever the person up there bought it and then had it out in the backyard for a playhouse. Yeah.
I still have tickets left.
Do you? Mm-hmm. Do you? I've seen another set of tickets here tonight too as well. Yeah. Anybody else have any tickets? You got some? It's kind of neat, isn't it? My dad dearly loved this business. We were forced labor. But he loved everything about it. He loved the toil and the long
He loved seeing
hours.
a child having fun. He loved to see a kid just laugh and laugh and laugh. And if he could make them laugh, he just worked that much harder.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he loved everything. He loved the long hours. He loved the hard work. He loved the pressure. He loved everything about it.
Yeah.
She liked counting the money. She did. That was her job. She counted the money, made deposits, took care of everything. She was in charge of popcorn and chili. It was her special popcorn recipe. Had to have so much oil, so much salt, so much flavor oil, and all this stuff. And then her chili for the chili dogs was her deal. That was her thing. So she made all the chili and all that. She had to have the seasoning right on the popcorn. You had to learn how to do that.
Right.
And but she typically was in charge of all the deposits and all that stuff, So there's counting millions of quarters every year from all the games, skee ball and all that stuff, millions
She
of quarters.
did the payrolls too.
Yeah, she did payrolls for several years.
Payrolls
too. Yeah.
for the manufacturing business part of it too.
Yeah, we got to get into some of
Yeah.
that too. We will here in a minute. Let me see. I think this is it. Yeah, we'll so let me tell you how much our dad loved this business. We had 3 amusement parks. We had Noble Park Funland, Burns Park Funland in Little Rock, and McCracken Park. There's one in Fort Smith, Arkansas. I think it's called McCracken Park or something like that. We had 3 amusement parks. He had a ride manufacturing company, and I don't know when he slept, But that's how much he loved this business. And so there was a German ride that was put out about 100 years earlier. This model is probably about 1969. But in 1959, he started building swinging gyms, and it was a copy of an old German thing that didn't have any copyrights on it. And it was an awesome, if you ever got to it, was an awesome ride, but it would bust your teeth out because it was weight oriented. How are we doing on time? We're okay. It was weight oriented, and so you had to get rocking it back and forth, and as you got really good, you'd finally get it to go over the top, And then once you're over, if you're really good, you keep going. Well, if you keep going and going and going, you become weightless. Now, an adult high schooler could stand like this and hold, but your feet start coming off the floor, and then you're just going everywhere, And so he made 400 of these rides in the process of 10 years, and he finally said, "I just couldn't design out the injuries," so he just quit making them, But there's a new version I saw out and there's some that are made over in Germany as well, but there's still in some countries using them. I think the heading on this thing, one of the most dangerous, useless rides ever was in some, just because, and Dad said when you get somebody with a few hits of alcohol in them, they were just all over the place. You're getting all beat up. But they would get going really, really fast. And so part of the manufacturing business was his first ride was a Tempest. He bought one somewhere that didn't have any patents on it, or they'd run out or something. It was black and white, and then he refined it and made it. And he's got 400 rides out, so I think he probably made 100 of these or so, And they're still active. They're still out there. If you go to Oktoberfest in Heron, Illinois, in the fall, you will see 2 of his rides there. One of them is a Tempest and one of them is a Swinger. You'll see the Swinger in a minute, and they look brand new. And so his name is still known in the industry. But this is the first ride that he made. And, of course, Johnny helped wire it and all the other ones. He was there for a long time. And this is the Swinger, on the Swinger. And this was a foldable. We had the old, what's called a chairplane version out at the park. This was portable. It folded in half and all this stuff. And he catered towards small, independent carnival owners as opposed to the large ones. Because there's a lot more of those than there are the big ones. And he could make a low-cost, efficient ride and sell it to the smaller carnival people. So he made, John, you remember how many of those he made?
Around 80.
Around 80 Swingers? Okay. This is the Hustler, which was a version of the Tempest. It sat flat, and the Tempest was tilted. The Hustler sat level, and it was more for teenagers. It was a rougher ride. It was a little more scary, a little more jolty, more for teenagers, so it upped it a little bit. And he also made the Rocket Race. These were designed to be pulled. He had a big thing about pulling things behind pickup trucks. He wanted to make it easy for them so they didn't have to buy diesel gas. And he was all about the little guy, and trying to make it easy for them. So everything from the Swinger on, the Tempest and the Hustler couldn't be, but the Swinger could be pulled with a pickup truck. Rocket Race could. And one of the last rides he made was a surf, and we make 2 or 3 of those. Just one. This is the only one we made. And it was there's some rules in Noble Park Land, or in Park is you want it to be one stop loading, you want it high capacity, you have all these things you're looking for, and he could load 60 people at a whack. And it went up and it was like a maypole and it swung back and forth. And then this one shot water out on you. And while you're going around, so. And this is the other, the Rampage is this is the one he had to have seriously engineered. He could feel the stress points in any ride by looking at it. He could tell you where it was going to crack or where it was going to break just by looking at it. This one he actually had engineered, but it was. There's still some of those out there today too. I was looking on the line, and they still have them, and they're still out running today.
I got to ride on that when he tested it.
Did you? Did you? How many of you realized that you were guinea pigs?
Guinea pigs.
Did y'all know that? Well, he would make a ride. Well, you had to burn it in somewhere, so he would bring it out to the park and run it for a week.
Do you remember bringing in the rides to be there one weekend and then wouldn't be there the rest of the week?
You don't know where the ride went, Hey, I like that ride. It's not here anymore.
Yeah, where'd that go?
Yeah, he would manufacture them, and then he would take them out there and run them for a week or so and get all the kinks worked out, and then apparently y'all made it okay, so you're still here. But it was things like chains would stretch out, and, we would just have to, just get them broken in a little bit, So, yeah, anytime at Tempest, Hustlers, Rampages, we had all kinds of stuff out there.
We got to go to school in that truck.
Well, I'm going to let you tell them. But anyway, so y'all were guinea pigs, but you made it, so life is good. But it gave us a variety of rides in the park, and, and that way when the carnival owners got it, they had a ride that was tested and everything, so it was good. This is a picture back in the day. This truck had Noble Park Funland and clowns all up and down the side of it. And Gayla, I'll let you tell the rest of this.
The thrill every morning when we were in high school, Paducah Tillman High School, he would take us to school. And we were in the back of the truck. And he wouldn't stop at the parking lot. He drove all the way up to the front steps at Paducah Tillman. And let us out at the steps, right there in front of everybody.
So all the way over there, Dad, don't, oh, here he goes. Front step. He didn't care.
No.
He took us. There's a side door that the band members used to go in. Drove us up to that door. He just drive up on the sidewalk. He could get by with more stuff.
Yeah.
I guess I ought to bring up some promotions that we did. A little pop test. How many of you remember Bunny Bread Days? Yeah, raise your hand. Let's get serious here. Stick it up high. Own it. If you're there, stick it up. What happened on Bunny Bread Days? You remember? You got a free ticket for every bread wrapper that you bought. Bunny bread wrapper that you bought in. You get a free red ticket. You would get a free red ticket for every ride. So you got one free ride for every Bunny bread wrapper that you brought in. So that fast.
The ticket booth was up to here in bread wrappers.
Bunny Bread did good those years. And as the promotion, Bunny Bread would sponsor Porter Wagner to come up and play on a trailer, on a flatbed trailer. Porter Wagner, sequins and all. And I actually had to go online and look it up because I knew Dolly Parton came out there pre-surgery and pre-multiple surgeries. But there was another girl before her that was dark-headed. Her name was Norma Jean. I looked it up online. But she was there 1 year, and then Dolly came with him, but he always had a girl. But he was there a few years, 3, 4, 5 years, something like that. But that was during Bunny Bread Days. But we actually had Porter up there, before he made it big. And how many of you remember Vacation Bible School tickets? Do you remember those? Stick your hands up in there. Let's go. You got one ticket for every day you went to Bible school. He
Yeah.
sponsored thousands
Yeah.
of kids. You know,
And if you got straight A's on your report card, you got.
right, got free tickets for that. Right. I didn't get many red tickets for that.
And one red ticket, it only took one ticket, where some rides took 3 tickets. So
That's true. So you always wanted the red tickets.
yeah, you always wanted a red ticket.
Of which, by the way, I have a roll of red tickets here in my personage. And because I love you guys in this community so much, I will give each one of you one of these if you want to have these as a collector's item. I have 2 rolls of these left. I have very little stuff left in the park. But if you'd like one as a souvenir, I'll give each. We'll let Leslie hand them out at the end, but we'll give you. Because I don't want to be mauled, all right? But we do these. You only took one to get on arrival. It might take 2, 3, or 4, or whatever. So these are the cherished ones. That's why Vacation Bible School and bread wrappers and stuff are so important. Also, Dad goes to Florida one year. We go to Florida every so often and on a family vacation. And we came back with 2 monkeys in our lap. The little monkeys like this, Well, they're all over the car. And I don't know if y'all know this or not, but all Carnival owners drive Cadillacs, or used to. Back in the 60s and 50s, 60s, and 70s, they all drove a white Cadillac. So Dad had a white Cadillac for years. He finally had a baby blue one, when he passed away, but it was just what you did, We're in the back of the Cadillac, and we got 2 monkeys, and they're going all over the place, and we're stuck with these monkeys, and they're anyway. So they were cute when they were little. Well, we put them out the park. We put a cage right behind where the snow cone stand was. And so we had 2 monkeys out there. Well, they're good till they grow up and get mean. And Connie was telling me that the lady from the animal shelter used to come out and put a thermometer on a stick and try and measure the temperature of the water for the monkeys, But yeah, they got kind of mean, started throwing things and whatever, so we had to get rid of them. And then after that, we started renting animals out of Arkansas. Who remembers the duck played piano? The chicken that danced. Remember that? There was a chicken that played baseball. Yeah, and the rabbit on the fire truck, right? And yeah, we need to start a business, Gayla. Let's get some animals and put them on Broadway. Put in 50 cents. But one of the guys asked me earlier, said, when the chicken danced, was the floor hot, and we were like, no, the floor wasn't hot. It was kind of like Pavlov's dog, It was like a bell would ring, they'd go out and they'd peck on the keyboard, and then another bell would ding, and they'd go get their food and they'd go back in, So it was just like a routine, So, but there's a place out of Arkansas we used to rent them from, and did that for many years, and it was, it was kind of fun. And we'd ship them back in the wintertime. Also, Dad shot off the fireworks almost all the years. I did probably the last 8 or 10 without him, 6 or 8 or 10 or something like that, but I shot them off for 18 years. It was the most fun on the planet. It's hard for me to go downtown on July the 4th now because I was about 6 to 8 feet from when they went off. And it was like somebody just slamming you with a body pillow when it went off. It was awesome. It's just the best thing ever, Boom! You're like, oh, that was great. I'm going to do this again. And guys, it's guy fun. Girls don't understand. But we're like, it was awesome. So, like, when I go watch, I'm like, they're by a computer. They're on a bar. Just no fun, And you would have problems with them because they were steel tubing in the ground. There were mortars, so you'd drop them in there. And the big thing is you had to hear it hit. Now, it's dark. There's 8 million people out the park. There's soot everywhere and smoke, and you've got to make sure it hits the bottom. You've got a long fuse on it, and if it doesn't hit the bottom, it goes down before it goes up, and then it may go off anywhere above the ground. I was chased more than once. I had one that went off, and it went off about room height here, and I started running. We had happened to have done them on the bank that year, and when it went out like this, I was running away from it, but running into it because it was falling in front of me. And that was a bad idea. So I did things like drop the flares, use these road flares.
Hit that bank over. And
Yeah.
I tell you what, it told me, and it just shot me.
Oh, yeah. We went into the lake about every 2 or 3 years. Not that we wanted to go in the lake in July, because about July the algae would start to grow in the lake, and you'd have to part the algae to get the john boat over there to put the fireworks out there. But something would go wrong. We'd have a set piece, a pinwheel or whatever, and it would go off. And we're like, oh, in the water. And you're down there watching, like, I'm glad to be here. This is awesome. So about every 2 or 3 years, we wind up in the water sooner or later. But, we did shoot them off, and it was a lot of fun. It was great, And now you can't get that close to them, But that's when the fun was. So, anything you want to say?
You're doing good.
Okay, all right. Okay. This is 1977, the fun announcement, the Funland Final Fun Fling. Ride all you want for $2.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy? Back in the day. And here comes Gayla's portion. Why don't you tell them about the water slide? Are y'all going to make her say it before she goes home? All right, when you get done, or before this is over, you have to say it.
Okay. This picture, of course, is the water slide. Before it was fixed, when they started this, it rained for us.
Well, they started in like January, didn't they?
Yeah.
December or January.
Mhm.
Because it had to be ready 1st of March.
Yeah. It rained for a solid 3 months. And it was awful trying to get it going. Finally, we got it going. And once we did get it going, it was a moneymaker. I mean, we were the first ones to even have a water slide anywhere. They're not like today where they're everywhere you go and they're huge and they're in the dark and all kinds of weird things. But we were one of the first people to have 3 of them, 3 at one time. There was a lot of places where there was one, short one, but he wanted to do 3 at one time. And so we finally got it done. I think they tore up a backhoe or something.
Yeah, they ruined the backhoe over the deal. Yeah.
But anyway, we finally got it done, and it was open for 10 years. And it brought a lot of business to the park. And that's where they started coming from Nashville, from bigger St. Louis, because we were the only one around. So
Now, we made the steel, Dad made the steel, all the supports, and then a local guy in town did all the fiberglass work, so it's all done local labor. You know.
right.
Let me push that for
Yeah, Dad designed it.
Right. And there she is.
There I am.
Now it's time, isn't it? You remember the ad? Well,
See
you have to
that?
say it. Go, do it.
Come on in, the water's fine at the waterworks. Look at the prices, you guys. $4 per hour, $10 all day. We're cheaper than a babysitter. And that's exactly what we were for a lot of people. And we tried to keep it as safe as we could, but of course there's some parents that would try to take advantage of us, and I'd have to call the park police at 10 o'clock to sit with these kids until their mamas come and picked them up. That was the sad part. But they had a lot. I raised a lot of kids out there at that water slide, and including my own and Gary's kids. And
You were a good babysitter.
yeah, that was Miss Paducah at the
Oh,
time.
was it? Okay.
Mhm. That was the first day we opened, and it was cold. It was cold, and she was in that bathing suit, and she was about to freeze.
And there's a view from the top.
Yeah. My little girl went up down that thing, I know, a million times. It never stopped every day. But she loved it. All the kids loved it. They didn't care if their feet were burning up, walking up the ramp there. They didn't care. They was going to go again. It was just a lot of fun. It was open 10 years. I think it opened in 78 because we closed in 88. So I know it was open for 10 years. Yeah, because I have put my handprint in the concrete with the date on it. Yeah, I remember doing that. But
And now I think we'll kind of move. We got a few minutes left. I think we're going to move into the more recent part. Now, see the difference between the first merry-go-round and this one? He made a metal top, and he was into plexiglass because of all his manufacturing. So he redid the gingerbread, as we call it, and then the metal roof started rotting away eventually over the years. So he foamed it on top and made it look kind of like whipped cream and painted that, and that's the way it was until the park closed. Anybody know anybody? That's what everybody's looking for, to see if they're in the picture. And the horses had to be hand painted every 3 years or so, every 3 or 4 years. I had to paint half the rides every year. And there's an entrance from the way when you walked in. There you go.
one ticket, 50 cents.
What a deal I have for you. This is all the last weekend the park was open. So that's as trendy as we got for 1988. Yeah.
Remember the goldfish in the boats?
Remember they used to have goldfish in there? We had to have a screen over the propeller. We'd have chewed a few of them up. So, well, we learned to put a screen on there. Chopped goldfish isn't really all that appetizing. Ring the bell, ring the bell. Now, if we'd had that crowd every weekend, we'd have still been there, you know?
Now, tell them why that was Dad's favorite ride.
I don't know why it was favorite ride, but it was his favorite ride.
It was his favorite ride because it didn't take any electricity.
Wheel yourself around there, you know what I mean?
We could still run that if the power went off.
Now, Jay Height is right here, if you can see it. This guy right here is a technical, give me his title again.
Technical coordinator.
Technical coordinator. But he's worked here at the library for 20 years, I guess. Bobbie, how long? Long time? 13 years or so. And so he asked me if I would come down and do a talk on the park, and he's right there, and he was the assistant manager at the time. And so he's worked and served down here, and he's a great guy. You need to get to know Jay. He's a first-class guy.
There's a fun.
You know how many of those little tail rotors we busted off with kids running around there? Whap! Go get another tail rotor. How many of y'all got stuck and had somebody come push you out? Right?
Yeah,
It was
used to be a
back in the
skate
day.
rink.
That's right. And another happy customer. And notice Dad's running the ride too. You'll see him, he's running a lot of rides. He was just as happy being a ride operator. See, he's running the hand cars again. He was just happy to be in it. And this is the ride we used to put drunks on when they came out. Because they say, hey, we want a free ride. We're like, sure, come on down here. We got a ride for you. We make everybody get off, and we put them on there and turn it on and back. And they would sit there, and the first couple laps they were fine, then they kind of go. And then they go, ooh, and they would just spew all the way around. But you'd have to clean it up. It was awesome. There was this one guy, his name was Finky. He lives in this town. I went over to him one day and said, hey, what's going on? He had a dill pickle chip right on his shirt. He was trying to get out of his shirt backwards. It was kind of good. You develop a different sense of humor in these. But another great ride. Just to show you what the Midway was like, just to give you a reminder of what it was like just to walk down through the middle and see the location of things.
Yeah, for drinking wine.
Yeah, it's coming up. Okay. Paratrooper. A lot of stories about that one. That was a great ride.
Every night when we'd get home from work, like at 10 or 10:30 at night, just dog tired, we'd have to sit down and help Mama count the money. But while we were counting money, and we would reminisce over what happened that day.
Tell stories, yeah.
And that was one of them, what you just told.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
But it would go on and on and on.
I'm a photographer, so I took a time-lapse exposure. And aren't you glad it didn't go that fast? We'd have lost our teeth on that one. And one of the other good things about Dad is he was a truck driver in the day, and he could spot a ride. He could back a ride in on a trailer and put it on the dime where it needed to go. So he wanted to come close to each other, but not close enough to hit. So that was part of the thrill. I'm going to hit the paratrooper, And there you go. Now, what do y'all call this? The technical name is Crazy Daisy. See, see there. Everybody called the cups for the teacups, but technically it was a Crazy Daisy. And for obvious reasons, but yeah, it could get you sicker than a dog too. There we go. And as we talked about in the video years ago in 2006, there was this operator sat right down here, and he had a button by his right knee, a doorbell button, and it operated a solenoid valve that was up here in the nose, and there was a garden hose that went up there, and he could spray you with water at will. And he's leaned back like this, going, you know. And so people are like, hey, what? I don't know, we're just innocent, you know. But Dad always liked that. So technically the witch was blowing her nose on you, you know. And so he found great humor in that. Okay. And here's the spider. We used to make a lot of money off of that. Most of it was change coming out of your pockets. Nobody carries change anymore. It's all debit cards, you know. But this is Dad's pride and joy. It was his band organ that came with the organ, or with the merry-go-round. And he actually, after the park closed, he put it in Gayla's house and said, I don't care if I'm broke and penniless, I want this band organ. That's how much he loved it. So he put it in her house for a number of years. But anywho, so that was his, he would just laugh. He would turn it on, and half of it didn't work, and he didn't care. He would just break out like a kid all over again. Who remembers the island, Duck Island with dirt on it?
There you go.
Okay. Turnpike ride. That's the one we all trained on. Gayla was talking about. We had 3 buttons, and they're always getting in the wrong car and drive you crazy. My sister got fired over that ride one time. The kitty whoop, as we called it. And remember the. This was towards the end. Remember the giraffe? Yeah. I remember.
Everybody remembers the line.
That used to be voice activated until they poured water down it several times, and then it just had to leave it on. But yeah. And there's Dad last weekend. Yeah. And there's Annie Mae. His nickname for her was Flossie, and so she was in charge of the popcorn. And here's the Galaxy, the roller coaster. We're at the end. Ski ball. These are our 2 kids, Josh and Gabe. They're now 34 and 36. And this is what it looked like from our view. This is in the snow cone stand. Is that you? That's you? Right there? There she is. Isn't that awesome?
We're looking to see if we're in these pictures.
We got. This is what it looked like to us. We're standing there with snow cone juice dripping off our elbows, and y'all are wanting snow cones, you know. So that's what we saw. And nothing like a day at the park. It's Mom and Dad the last day. And real quickly, sorry, I don't know how. Hang on just a minute. Real quick, we're about to run out of time, but we had a signal when it's time to put the train up and the dark ride and the hand cars. We would put one eye in the ticket booth. So 15 minutes early, then they got to go put up the rides. And when the other eye went in, it was time for everybody else to close up. So we had this little signal worked out, you know. But we don't want to run out of time here. But this is the ride operators that worked on the last day. And this is your youngest son. What's his name?
Yeah, there's a story about Steve.
We don't have time right now, but what's his name?
Oh, yeah, he worked there.
What's your youngest son's name?
Stephen.
Stephen. Yeah, this is Stephen right here, and Jay is right here, the guy who works there at the library. So he was there on the last weekend as well. And then they auctioned off the park, and this was the flyer for that. And it was October the 5th, 1988. And then this is the parting scene always for the park. You know, it's the sun going down the merry-go-round for the last time. And thank you all for doing that.